So welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you could join me today to explain to you all about the AIM, the Accelerative Integrated Methodology. I'm Wendy Maxwell. I'm a language teacher. I've taught French in various different platforms, immersion, bilingual, core French. But currently, what I do most is to train teachers in the use of the methodology, which is AIM, and I'm the author of all of the resources related to the methodology. Um, I have traveled all over the world to help teachers understand AIM and have won a few awards for that as well. And so I'm so happy today to be able to share my love for the teaching of languages and my experience with AIM. So I love this quote because it really represents what I feel is really key when one is teaching language or teaching anything. It is not really what counts. What counts is not really what the teacher teaches, but it's what the learner learns. We can do all kinds of things to teach what we're trying to teach, but if the students are not learning, and in our case, as language teachers, if they're not acquiring the language from early on in their language acquisition journey, we are really doing the students a disservice and also ourselves, because of course, as language teachers, we all work very hard. I know that years ago I was talking to a teacher and she was saying, well, I taught, for example, clothing or sports or food last year, and this year the students don't remember a thing. Well, that's a real shame. So as teachers, and my whole goal as the creator of this methodology is to make sure that when we teach something, the students actually learn it. I'm going to show really quickly a little video of aspects of an AIM classroom all over the world and different languages as well.
What will do the song get
Grand-mère. Parce que c'est la grand-mère de Chaperon Rouge et la mère part à Chaperon Rouge. Alors c'est ta grand-mère. Tu la des fantastique.
La classe toma. Yo tomo.
Una persona importante o importante, importante, importante. Entonces, yo no hablo con tú, okay.
Contigo.
Oh, sí.
我要找一个歌手，小鸡住在农场里，一天小鸡出上学，一个小国家在小鸡的头上。怎么了？哎呀，天怎么了？
So if you wouldn't mind just writing in the chat where you are and what languages you teach, what platform you teach, perhaps core or um, um, immersion or bilingual program, I would really appreciate that. Will help me to really frame what I show you today based on what your needs are. So I would really appreciate that if you don't mind. And I just wanted to let you know that for those of you who are interested in how AIM aligns with the CEFR, I know in Canada it's very important, in other countries perhaps as well also. AIM reflects and responds very directly to what the CEFR requests of teachers to develop an authentic proficiency and a plurilingual profile. That is what AIM focuses upon. Authentic proficiency, absolutely. From the first day I created AIM, it was to ensure that students develop proficiency in the language. We've created curriculum that focuses on the can-do statements that aligns with age, interests, and needs of the students, as stated in the CEFR. And we work hard to develop quality resources that ensure successful language acquisition through effective teaching methods. and to support teacher education and training for success. We offer many different training options for teachers right through to AIM certification, the highest level of training for AIM teachers. So we do absolutely confirm that the AIM is aligned very, very well with the CEFR. AIM, which stands for the Accelerative Integrated Methodology, is a comprehensible input-based approach, which means that everything we do in this methodology is there to help students rapidly understand and therefore rapidly be able to develop a foundation for language proficiency, because the sooner they can understand, the more they're going to be able to acquire the vocabulary that we want them to acquire and eventually use it in authentic interactions. AIM has a content and language integrated learning focus, which means that we teach through another subject area. As I mentioned earlier, as an immersion teacher, I found huge benefit in teaching language through another subject area, because not only are we teaching language for language's sake, but we are teaching other skills as well. So in AIM, our content is an arts and literacy-based approach. So we teach the writing process, the editing process, theater, drama. We have a lot of music and choreography as well. So a lot of these skills can be applied and transferred to other areas of the curriculum. Our primary goal is to develop authentic proficiency as outlined in the CEFR. So AIM is used in many schools all over the world, primarily Canada, the United States, Australia, and the Netherlands, but in other areas of the world as well. AIM began in an independent school in Ontario, in Canada, actually Toronto, but now is used in thousands of schools all over the world. It is used primarily in Canada in public schools, but also in most of the private schools use AIM. And in the Netherlands, it's used in public schools. In Australia, it's used a lot in the private schools. And a recent study out of the Netherlands showed that AIM students outperform students in the other most popular programs in the country in all language skills. And this research on the effectiveness of AIM was voted the best research paper of the year in the Journal of European Second Language Acquisition. Last October, the Dutch students were rated the best students in the country, and various students in different AIM classes in the United States have been winning national competitions. If you're interested in seeing the research that's been done, this research is found on our website. You can take a picture of this if you like, or you can go to our website, or you can contact me and I will happily give you a link to that research if you are interested. So today I'm going to go through the series of AIM strategies that are supported by research. And we have a research paper that will list the research that supports these different strategies. If you're interested in seeing it, it's on our website as well. So Danielle, I see that you just joined. If you would like to just write in the chat where you teach and what platform you teach, perhaps the languages you teach as well. Thank you, Nicole and Priscilla, for adding what you do. So glad to see that you're coming all the way from Brisbane there in Australia, Priscilla and Nicole. Great to see you too. Kindergarten in Winnipeg. That's just great. So one of the most important strategies that we use in AIM is the use of what I have termed a pared down language, which is basically a high frequency functional vocabulary. Often this is not used in language classes, or it is used in part, but teachers, it's not used as systematically as we do in AIM. I really feel strongly that with the limited time we have, even in immersion programs, it's still limited. With the limited time that we have to ensure that students are exposed to the most important high frequency words. And so I use this selected vocabulary that I've developed based on my action research in the classroom and other research studies as well of high frequency words. for French in particular, but also for Spanish, we regularize the stem of the verb by not teaching the nous and vous form and putting that to the side at first and using on, tout le monde, and la classe as options. We can stick to that regularized stem of the verb so it does not matter how easy or difficult it is to conjugate the verb. So we have veut, va, doit, peut, aime, regarde, écoute, écrit. It doesn't matter how hard the verb is to conjugate. We use that form for je, tu, il, elle, on, la classe, and tout le monde. So we just are leaving to the side the nous and vous, so we don't worry about the stem change, the verb ending of ons or ez at all. So what we're doing is we're teaching across verbs. We're not teaching through verbs as typically teachers will do when they're working with conjugation. Je parle, tu parles, il parle, elle parle, nous parlons, vous parlez, il parle. No, we're teaching across. So as we teach across, we can teach much more meaning of verbs, as I showed earlier. Va, doit, peut, aime, regarde. So meaning comes across much more effectively and rapidly. In this way, we are simplifying the language for rapid comprehension, and we are ensuring the pleasant repetition of the same words over and over again to ensure acquisition. Of course, as many language teachers do, if it's possible, we use cognates, words that sound familiar in the target language, to our own language. And AIM is, as you probably noticed, very verb-centered. I focus a lot on the teaching of verbs. We teach many other words as well, linking words avec and pour and à and de and parce que and so on. But we also make sure that the highest level of focus is on verbs. And nouns are taught always in association with verbs. Okay, well, thank you, Danielle, for adding that in. Wow, 2 from Australia. That's just fantastic. And you teach French. That's lovely. Okay, so continuing on, strategy number 2, something that a lot of teachers really are drawn to AIM for because it's probably the most unique strategy, and that is the gesture approach. So what are the words? We have our pared down language. How do we teach them really effectively? How does this comprehensible input come across really rapidly? It's through the gesture approach. The students are seeing, hearing, saying, and sometimes kinesthetically embedding vocabulary so that comprehension and recall is accelerated. When a student is simultaneously seeing, hearing, saying, and sometimes kinesthetically exposed to a word, for example, whatever it might be, want, then the student is storing the meaning of that word in different parts of the brain, where they see, where they hear, where they say, and where they kinesthetically embed. And this ensures really rapid recall of those words. And that is why in an AIM classroom, the students can come back after summer holidays, and the first day of September is like the last day of June. There is very little degradation. So what happens with the gesture approach is that the teacher is gesturing anything that he or she is communicating to the students. And the knowledge of the gestures build up over time, and it's all described in the 85 lesson plan in our kits. From one lesson to another, we add more and more vocabulary, and the students are able to identify those words. So the teacher is gesturing, the students are speaking. So instead of saying, bonjour tout le monde, maintenant la classe commence, what I do is go. And so the teacher gestures and the students are doing the talking. So my goodness, for students who are shy, they're speaking as much as the students who are weak, who are speaking as much as the students who are really strong. And you get so much more homogeneous class, and you get everyone really maximizing language production from the moment they enter the classroom. AIM students are speaking for almost 100% of the class time. So I'll show you what that looks like.
Pardon? Winnipeg. Excellent. Alors, je vais continuer maintenant. Est-ce que tout le monde sait ou ne sait
So you can see the teacher is conducting the class as if it's almost like a choir. The students are identifying the gestures and the students are doing the speaking. Embedded in that is a lot of grammar, it's authentic language production. She's not, talking based on a script. She's just communicating to her students, sharing something personal about herself, that she's going on a trip to visit her family. She is that students are visualizing syntax and grammar, and many of the words, of course, all of the words are familiar. She's selecting her vocabulary very carefully to ensure that she's using words that the students know. And this is one thing about AIM, we always know where the students are in their language acquisition process. It allows us to ensure the pleasant repetition that is necessary for acquisition. So I'll just do a little demonstration with the gesture approach. So I might do this for the students. Bonjour tout le monde. Maintenant, la classe commence et tout le monde doit parler seulement, only, seulement en français. Alors, tout le monde ouvre la tête. Oups. Enlève l'anglais et mets l'anglais dans la poche et prends le français et mets le français dans la tête. Et ferme la tête. Maintenant, tout le monde parle en français. So I would use gestures in that way. I did that very quickly, just as a demonstration for you. I do it much more slowly when I'm just starting and teaching this to students. But you can see how I'm integrating the vocabulary with my gestures. I'm getting the students to speak while I'm doing those gestures. Sandwiching is a technique I use, maintenant, now, because it isn't an obvious gesture. Tout le monde parle is kind of obvious. Ouvre and tête, that's all obvious. Poche and dans, those are obvious gestures, but something like maintenant or seulement, I sandwich that only. It's a very quick way of getting the kids to understand, because that's our goal. The faster we can get them to understand every single arbitrary sound, which language always is, a series of arbitrary sounds that together, strung together, make no sense to a new learner. But now we're identifying each one with a gesture so students rapidly come to understand while they are producing the language. So strategy 4 is ensuring that students are exposed to language in context. Word concept can only develop through context. And so, as I mentioned earlier, my background as an immersion teacher taught me how important and effective it is to teach language through another subject area. So for me, I find, because I was introducing or developing AIM in a core language classroom, just 30 minutes a day, I found that a literacy and arts-based approach was best. So I based what I did around what David Booth, who is an expert in language, the language and literacy programs in English first language classes, who said that the best literacy approach is not to teach as many stories as possible, but to go deeply into one story and delve deeply into it. As he said, go in, out, and around a story. And so this is exactly what we do in a second language environment. And I think his notion is even more important in a second language environment where students don't come to the class knowing the language already. So we work on story, we work on theater and drama and music and choreography, all integrated together so that the vocabulary and the contexts are repeated and are familiar. How wonderful it is for students, as David Booth says here, for students to understand and feel comfortable. I love this quote where he says, children new to a language find in a story context for understanding. It's not wordless that command their attention, but the lives of characters that fill the tales they read or listen to. And how painful it must be for those children alien to a language to sit day after day without feeling connected to what's happening in the classroom. And yet through storying, how quickly they enter the activity, making sense of what is happening, building their own versions, listening, telling, retelling, talking about, reflecting upon, responding. So I'm going to show an excerpt of one little French play here.
Le guépard arrive à la maison du lion. Il parle avec lui.
Monsieur Lion, qu'est-ce qu'on fait? Il ne pleut pas depuis longtemps. Tout le monde a très soif. C'est un gros problème. Est-ce que tu peux nous aider?
D'accord, Guépard. Tu dois aller à l'arbre Ungali, un arbre magique qui est loin d'ici dans la forêt. Tu dois dire le nom de l'arbre et après ça, l'arbre peut aider les animaux.
Le guépard arrive à la...
So this is based on an African folk tale. It's not an entry-level play, but it is very similar in that there is a lot of repetition that happens through the story so that students can learn them fairly quickly. These are full-length plays that take about 8 to 10 minutes, or for older students, up to 15 minutes to perform. So they're not short little stilted dialogues. They are engaging, they're full stories, they have a moral, often they have an unresolved ending so that students can continue the story and write their own story extensions. One strategy that's very important in AIM is to engage students and to help students learn is patterning, rhythm, and rhyme. I think as a language teachers, we know how songs and little raps can really draw students in and help language acquisition. And so we've incorporated this very specifically into this methodology through the plays themselves. They have sometimes rhyming and rhythmical aspects to them. We have rhythm and rhyme and patterning incorporated into some of the activities in the practicing of different vocabulary and structures. And of course, we have our songs and our raps that all contain a lot of patterning and rhythm and rhyme. This aligns well with the emotional component of the methodology that you'll see where the characters have lines that are filled with emotion. Even the gestures themselves, like fantastique or cour, are filled with emotion to help students learn. Studies have shown that if you can you can include in your teaching an emotional component, you can help students acquire whatever you're teaching up to 500 times more effectively. So that sort of aligns a little bit with the patterning, rhythm, and rhyme as well, because that brings in that emotional component as well. So let's have a little look at one very small way that we incorporate a little bit of rhythm into our teaching through the teaching of opposite words.
Maintenant, qu'est-ce qu'on va faire? Dire et danser les contraires. Tout le monde a un partenaire. Frappe des mains et on commence. 1, 2, 3, 4. En haut, en bas. En haut, en bas. Fini. Commence. Fini. Commence. Très mal. Très bien. Très mal. Très bien.
So that's just a little example. It goes on and teaches a whole series of different opposite words. And we'll build up to that I often introduce words by teaching through their opposites. I find this is very effective. So les contraires or opposites is a very effective way that threads throughout AIM to help students learn and remember vocabulary. Strategy number 6, the use of total and partial questions. Questioning is a very important technique that we use in AIM to maximize language production in a scaffolded and supported manner. So let's just do a little bit of practice with the way I use questioning combined with the pared down language and the use of gestures. So this is how I might ask a question. For example, est-ce que ça c'est une fille ou ça c'est un garçon? Tout le monde dit ça c'est une fille. So I teach the students to respond in a complete thought. Naturally, they might just say fille, but I don't accept that. I only accept a complete thought response to maximize language production. So I might also say, est-ce que ça, c'est un garçon? Ou ça, c'est une fille? Tout le monde dit, ça, c'est un garçon. Très, très bien. So by modeling the question, the students are saying the question. By guiding the students and modeling for them how I want them to respond, I am helping them to learn how to maximize their language production, and it's very scaffolded. I will train them how to do this, and eventually I will wait for them to respond on their own. And all of these techniques we teach you how to use them effectively through our workshops. Strategy number 7, we take the story that the students come to know very, very well and help them learn to manipulate vocabulary. Now, the questioning is one way that we help them to manipulate the vocabulary, but we also have other activities as well that are written activities that help students to manipulate the vocabulary in various different ways. So we're helping students to not only gain language through input, but also practice their language output. And those the language manipulation activities are highly scaffolded, from very simple to increasingly more challenging, to finally at the end of even your first step kit, after 40 to 50 hours, the students are writing a full-length story retelling with you as a teacher. And eventually then in the step 2 kit, they write their own stories as well. So strategy number 8, the students, it's very important to me that students are constantly engaged and learning from the teacher and learning from each other as well. So AIM is a very cooperative learning-based approach. There's a huge emphasis, because it's a literacy-based approach, on creative writing, the development of an understanding of the writing process, the creative writing process, the editing process, and even the book publishing process, right out to the, and we even have, we run our AIM book publishing contest. So teachers send in their best examples of story extensions and we publish them as a company. So what is happening is, as the students are working on their creative writing together, they're developing oral language skills in tandem with the written. We do not have students writing just in silence, because that, 10 minutes of every 30-minute class would be wasted on losing the ability to practice their oral language skills when they're writing. So it's very important that we ensure they're writing and interacting at the same time.
Oui. Il n'y a pas de mettre en salle et déchirer.
Est-ce que ça, c'est la même histoire, mais dans les mots différents? Oh oui. Dans les mots différents?
Qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire?
Est-ce que tu fais en partenaire ou
Saute!
beaucoup? Est-ce que tu fais ça?
Et très pauvre.
Est-ce que tu fais ça?
Est-ce que c'est ça? Non, ça c'est juste une maison.
Tu fais ça?
Louis
commence à marcher dans la forêt. Il espère trouver une amie dans la forêt.
Elle a demandé entraîneur. Oh, excellent. Entraîneur.
So this is what you're going to do in an AIM classroom, students writing together in partners, maximizing language production, written and oral together, cooperating together. As we move through AIM, there's a lot of emphasis, as I mentioned, on the creative writing, the patterning, the language patterning, the rhythm and rhyme, and this is students who wrote a rap.
Aujourd'hui, la classe commence et tout le monde pense et danse. Quand j'entre dans la classe française, je ne parle pas en anglais. On parle en français, c'est fantastique. La Bengali a bien appris. Je parle en français, c'est très très bien. Je fais les actions avec mes mains. En anglais, ça c'est vrai. Mot. Word.
So this is a lovely example of grade 8 boys just having fun in French. They're proud of their language acquisition so far. They haven't had much aim, but they have created a simple rap, put it to the music beat that they like. There's rhythm and rhyme in there, and it's just so lovely to see students finding such enjoyment with a second language that we don't always see from boys in grade 8. Strategy number 9, target language only. We insist that students, no matter what platform we're teaching, immersion, bilingual, francisation, core language, 30 minutes a day, 45 minutes 2 times a week, no matter what, we want students using the target language only. And AIM systems, strategies, and techniques are there to support you to ensure that this happens. If students are speaking in their own language in a foreign language classroom, they are not going to learn that language, that target language, especially if it's very limited. But in any situation, they're not going to. If say English is their home language and they're speaking English at all in the classroom, they will speak it if it's allowed. And so one does not learn a language by speaking their own language. So as I mentioned, we have a lot of different systems to support the card system, the group point system, lots of praise when students do make an effort, many, many different ways of helping you. And this is all described in our kits. Strategy number 10 is scaffolding. AIM is very, very deeply scaffolded. This is one area where I feel is lacking in some other programs. Students are expected to do often certain things in the language that they're just not capable of doing. And this creates frustration from the teacher, great frustration from the students, and students end up speaking in English if their first language is English. So it's what AIM does is ensure that students are successful every step along the way and that they can handle all of the activities in the target language. Strategy number 11. So we make sure that grammar is understood in a very unique way. We have a 3-step inductive approach to grammar, where students are basically learning grammar in a very similar way to the way they would learn it as a young child in their first language. It's different, but it's similar in a way because it's very natural at first. At first, this teacher is just going to gesture various aspects of grammar. So I'm going to give you some examples. So we have il, avec un moustache, with a mustache, that's he, il, and elle, she. This is actually similar to the American Sign Language for she or girl. And then we have il, for example, il is content, happy. And then we have elle est contente. So that you're going to add an extra gender gesture to make students say an additional sound. Il est grand. Elle est grande. So you have to add this gender gesture to help students say that additional word. It signals an additional sound. You have, for example, le, that's the you have le, la, and les, all identified by an L. You have le as the masculine, so when the students see this, it's masculine and they say le. When it's feminine, they'll say la, and plural, les. So we're able to integrate into our teaching just naturally, without an explanation, what the gender differences are in the language, and it really helps students to inductively or naturally come to understand what aspects of language occur in the target language. Now, this is different for Spanish, a little bit different, or actually similar for Spanish, different for Mandarin, of course. So, and all of this is explained in the teacher's guide and in our trainings. In French, we also have infinitive forms like, sorry about that. We have infinitive forms like il marche, il va marcher. Il voit, il doit voir. Il aime, il peut aimer. And then for ir, we have, for example, la classe finit, la classe va finir. So no matter whatever infinitive we're talking about, they all have an R in them. So we just add that different R, that little R gesture to help students say that R form. We also have, we teach the plural, we teach the past tense with gestures. So we incorporate the teaching of grammar into the use of our gestures. And this three-step approach is described fully in our, in the teacher's guides and in the different workshops that we offer as well. But I wanted to make sure you're aware that this does happen. And this is sort of the end product of the work with grammar, our règles en rap rules.
Corrige les erreurs. Le numéro. Tout le monde lit avec madame. 1, 2, 3. Est-ce que tu peux chanter avec il? Qui voit une faute dans la phrase numéro 1? Oui.
Chante doit être chanté parce que après peut, c'est l'infinitif.
D'accord. Tout le monde, on va répéter la règle et c'est la règle numéro 1. Tout le monde va connaître. Après, à, comment, pour ou de, doit, aime, veut et aussi peut. C'est mon va où je vais, c'est l'infinitif qu'on doit utiliser. Fantastic.
So those students are elementary students who've had a few years of AIM. And this is the third step. We have step 1, we naturally just use our gestures and incorporate the grammar without an explanation. Step 2 is we target different aspects of the language for practice of the language pattern. And then finally, we have the règles en rap. As students speak, become proficient, and are making errors, we use that règles en rap to really patternize and focus on how the language works. So the students come to really feel what sounds right in the language. A lot of different educators have used AIM, from elementary right through to adult. This is one teacher who used AIM to teach English for adults, immigrants in the United States. So strategy 12, emotional language. I did mention that earlier. Emotional language threads throughout everything we do, from the gestures that are filled with emotion, the plays that are filled with emotion, the different raps and songs that have emotion. And this will indeed enhance language acquisition up to 500 times more effectively if you can do that. Especially if we can not only use that emotion ourselves, but ensure that students are saying the words with emotion when we gesture. Strategy 13 aims hierarchical approach. So the pleasant repetition, I have mentioned the importance of that. Words cannot be acquired unless they are repeated, and some words need more repetition than other words. So in this methodology, we ensure that pleasant repetition occurs by creating something that is called a hierarchical approach. So for example, the very first day we teach a few words and their gestures to our students. And now we have this shared vocabulary and gestures. The next day, we teach some more words and their gestures, and we also go back and repeat the words we did the first day and gestures. The third day, we teach more words and gestures to the students. They learn those, and then we go back and practice the words and gestures from the first 2 lessons. And it continues like this, so that we're constantly going back to the most highly frequently used words and gestures introduced at the very beginning. And as we go back, this pleasant repetition allows students to acquire deeply the meaning of those words. Strategy number 14, nonverbal communication and positive reinforcement. Oh my goodness, we really focus a lot on the positivity in the classroom, enjoyment, engagement, lots of praise for student efforts. The power of positive reinforcement really cannot be understated. It is so important. It will help students feel more connected to the teacher, research have shown. Jane Bancroft showed this in her research. It will help students feel better about themselves, feel more successful, and will help increase attention on the part of the students and engagement, and which is really important these days. I think a lot of teachers are finding that a bit challenging. And the way we do it in AIM is very unique, where I am gesturing often, something that the students have done. For example, oh, Mary, tu parles très, très bien en français. So not just me that is saying that to Mary. It's everyone in the class is saying those words to Mary. It is extremely powerful for Mary to receive that reinforcement, positive reinforcement from her peers. Or I have the class say it to themselves, affirming, tout le monde est fantastique. So they're affirming themselves as being really great and really working hard, whatever it is you want to say. It is very important to keep the brain alert, to limit activities to 10 minutes maximum. For younger kids, I limit it to 5 minutes maximum. This is to keep the brain alert and maximizing language acquisition. So I'm always switching from one type of activity to another, sometimes having students stand up, sit down, walk, move their hands, read, sing, dance. So always different activities for the students to make sure that even if it's only 30 minutes a day that you have with them, that they're acquiring and keeping their brain alert for the full 30 minutes. So these strategies, I have supporting research that will help you understand how these strategies work and the different research that supports them. So you're welcome to take a screenshot of that, or I can definitely, if you're interested, send you the link directly to the supporting research studies for that support why we use those different strategies. Now, the results for the last little part of this workshop, webinar, I should say, I'm going to show you the results of AIM. Now, AIM is successful in development of all language skills. One of the more challenging language skills to develop is oral language proficiency. So that is what AIM is uniquely positioned and good at doing. But because oral language skills develop so well with AIM, especially not as much maybe with Mandarin, but because you do have to learn another set of characters, which in our Mandarin resources, we show you how to do that. But if we're talking about English to French, the transition is absolutely immediate because we're sharing the same vocabulary and, we're sharing the same alphabet and sounds. So this is one of my students, Core French. It was her first year of Core French after 80 hours of instruction, where she did a story retelling. This is basically the students are learning about circumlocution when they do a story retelling. They're learning how to say something in their own words. And so the students have to retell the story without repeating any sentences from the original story that we've been working on. And so it really teaches creativity and circumlocution and gives these students in a very deeply scaffolded way the ability to write their own story, even in the first year of French. Of course, the student is in grade 1, but would not be any student in grade 1, if not writing in English, would not be writing this much in French. But if they can write in English, then they should be able to write in French as well. up to now grade 11. It's the same process, no matter whether it's grade 1 or grade 11. Story retelling is something we ask the students to do. But of course, when it's a grade 11 student, we're going to expect a much longer story with better syntax, with more vocabulary, richer vocabulary, better grammar, better spelling. And so, of course, we're going to see that from a grade 11 student because they have a lot more practice with the literacy skills that they've developed in their first language. This is a Japanese story retelling from Australia. Of course, not as long as the other story retellings because this student has to learn a new script. So, but absolutely impressive in my opinion. Congratulations to those Australian Japanese teachers. Back down to grade 7 now, L'Arbre en Galie. Again, we expect so much more of the grade 7s than a grade 1, so you're going to see a longer story retelling where the students are using much more vocabulary and better spelling, attention to spelling and grammar. The next story that we do in AIM after a retelling is the students work on story extension. So the first one, these are scaffolded, of course. The first one, they write a retelling of the story that they know well, and now they take this same story and move it forward. Qu'est-ce qui se passe après? What happens next? So this one is a couple of my grade 1 students, Core French, Toronto, after 150 hours of instruction. They write, what happens after the wolf falls in the soup and runs out of the house? Well, he's still hungry. What's he going to do? So the students in Core French, 30 minutes a day, wrote this. Après que le loup sort de les trois petits cochons, il va à la maison et dort et se réveille et marche à la blase et court et marche. Monsieur Loup est très fou et content. So after the wolf leaves the house, he goes to his house and goes to sleep, and then he gets up and then he walks to a store called Loblaws, and he's very silly and happy. Le loup frappe à la porte de la fille Annie. Il dit à son ami, est-ce que tu veux danser avec moi? Oui, je veux, je aime toi. L'ami dit, est-ce que tu veux aller à ma maison? Oui, je veux aller à ma maison. Le loup dit, oui, oui, je veux. Le cochon est ici, dit le loup. So the wolf knocks on the door of his friend, who's a girl, and he says to his friend, do you want to dance with me? And she says, yes, I want to. I like you. The friend says, do you want to go to my house? And the wolf says, yes. And, oh, no, the wolf is here. So now they're afraid of the wolf. Or the cochon, sorry, the pig is here. So they're afraid of the pig. J'ai peur, dit la fille amie. Cours à sa maison. Oui, je veux aller à ma maison. Est-ce que tu veux aller à ma maison? Oui, je veux aller à ta maison, dit le loup. Je veux faire une fête, dit la fille amie. Le loup dit oui, 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 je veux. Est-ce que tu veux manger avec moi, dit le loup. Oui, 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 dit la fille amie. Je veux, je veux, je veux. So now they're afraid and they go to the girl's house and well, it was asked, do we want to go to my house? Yes, I want to go to my house and I want to have a party. Grade 1s love having their fete. And and they go along and the wolf says, yes, 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 I want to go and I want to eat with you. And I want to. So anyway, I won't read the whole thing, but that continues on a little bit. And yeah, so just not a long story, but a lovely story for grade 1. Core French. We have grade 8 here in Missouri. We also offer the opportunity for older students to read outside of the main story for the kit, and we invite them to do story retellings of those other stories, whether it be from an AIM reader or another story that they read in French. This was another student from Missouri in the United States, grade 8, second year of French with AIM, and she wrote what happens before. So instead of writing what happens after, what happens before, and she wrote a 1,000-word story what leads up to the story for the main kit, story for the kit that they're working on. So I'm going to end with this little little video of a student who is in grade 5. And I'd just like you to consider what you've heard today in my description of AIM. What do you see? And you can write this in the chat if you like. And of course, please don't hesitate to ask me any questions at all. At the end, we have time for questions. What do you see here that you've learned about AIM in this interaction? This is a little it's a Delft-like test from the CEFR that we created at AIM, but that isn't an official Delft test, but it does test for language proficiency levels through A1, A2, B1. So have a look at this student who is in grade 5.
Bonjour, comment t'appelles-tu?
Je m'appelle Saskia.
Comment ça va?
Ça va bien, merci et toi?
Ça va très bien, merci. Quel temps fait-il aujourd'hui?
Il pleut.
Est-ce que tu es un garçon ou une fille?
Je suis une fille.
Est-ce que tu aimes ou n'aimes pas chanter?
Comme ci, comme ça.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Ça, c'est un crayon.
Est-ce que c'est un chien ou une maison?
Ça, c'est un chien.
Est-ce que le chien court ou marche?
Le chien court.
Et est-ce que c'est un garçon ou un chat?
Il est un chat, mais peut-être le chat est un garçon.
Est-ce que le chat saute ou mange?
Le chat mange.
Qu'est-ce que tu vois ici?
Je vois un garçon qui joue de basketball.
Qu'est-ce que la fille ouvre?
La fille ouvre une porte.
Pourquoi est-ce qu'elle ouvre la porte?
Parce qu'elle rentre à la maison, mais peut-être elle va à l'école.
Qui est-ce que tu vois ici?
Je vois une fille et des parents, et le parent dit au revoir à la fille parce que la fille va à l'école.
Et où est l'école?
L'école est à Toronto parce que ça c'est l'océan.
Où est ton école? Est-ce que ton école est à Toronto, à Paris?
Mon école est à Toronto.
Comment s'appelle ton école?
Ça s'appelle Maven.
Et est-ce que ton école est grande ou petite?
Mon école est très petite.
Combien de personnes, combien d'élèves est-ce qu'il y a à ton école?
150.
Oh, très bien, tu sais combien de personnes il y a, bravo. Qu'est-ce que ta mère ou ton père dit quand tu vas à l'école?
Ma mère et mon père disent ciao ciao Mickey Mouse.
Ça, c'est très amusant. Et qu'est-ce que tu leur dis? Qu'est-ce que tu dis à tes parents?
Je dis rien.
Oh, tu ne dis rien, tu ne parles pas, tu es silencieuse. Est-ce que tu aimes ou n'aimes pas aller à l'école?
Comme ci, comme ça.
Comme ci, comme ça, je pensais que tout le monde aime l'école. Est-ce que tu aimes lire? Est-ce que tu aimes écrire les histoires?
J'aime lire et écrire les histoires.
Très bien, merci Saskia.
Et j'aime les singes aussi.
Oh oui, tu aimes les singes, oui, je me rappelle ça. Et ton singe s'appelle Ifa, n'est-ce pas?
Oui.
Et tu aimes faire des robes pour ton singe. Tu aimes coudre les robes pour ton singe.
Oui.
Merci.
De rien.
Au revoir.
Okay, so I don't know if you have any ideas, want to write anything in the chat about what you see there in terms of the students' responses, and the student was responding in complete thoughts, almost exclusively. That teacher had trained the student very well. She also did something that I didn't speak about today, but it's a technique we use to help students expand their thoughts. I hope you noticed that sometimes the student gave more information than the teacher actually requested. That's another way that we help students maximize vocabulary use orally, which translates into long, long stories that they write. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that little video of the interview with the student there. And noticed how the language proficiency is established even after a few years with AIM. We have a lot of professional development options, a lot of different training options. Currently, I'm giving my online gesture practice. Actually, I think there are two teachers from Australia there, right in our session right now. And so we have our virtual summer institute, which you're very welcome to join from July 14th to 18th. We have French immersion, Spanish workshops, level 1, level 2, specialty sessions as well on the 18th. If you can get there, Nicole, yes, that's great. Please, I hope you'll join me that's so great, Nicole. I'm glad you're coming to the Winnipeg workshop for core and French immersion teachers. And in Vancouver, our fall institute takes place there. at one of the with one of the best AIM teachers in Canada. Hopefully being able to show some have some of her students come along. We'll have to see if that can happen. I hope it'll happen also in Winnipeg, that we'll get some students coming to do demonstrations. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but hopefully we will. Please feel free to download 2 free AIM lessons anytime. You can have a look. There's an authentic AIM class that from start to finish with no experience at all in AIM or in the target language. One is in French, one is in Spanish. Very first exposure to the language, and you'll see how by the end of the class they're actually starting to speak, and the teacher can train them even within the 30-minute class time to be speaking when she's gesturing. So that's something that might be of interest to you. And I hope you will keep in touch. Oops, apologies for that error there. Our website is there, which I know you're familiar with since you've registered for this workshop, for this little webinar. We have our AIM Facebook page. We have our forum where many teachers ask questions and I respond, and other teachers respond to and have discussions about AIM. We have our Twitter account here, Instagram here. I have a lot of little gesture videos, both on the Instagram account and YouTube account. So I'll show how I introduce AIM, different words with gestures. So you can take a look at the shorts under the YouTube channel, and many other AIM videos on the YouTube channel. So anyway, I don't know if you have any comments or questions at all before we leave today. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
It's Nicole. I just
Hi,
want to
Nicole.
thank you for this session. It was really impressive. I am excited, but a bit overwhelmed. So I'm going to start with just checking you out on YouTube maybe, and doing a little bit more digging. And I'm really excited to attend that workshop in October. So thank you so much for this.
I'm so glad, Nicole. Yes, AIM has a lot of different components. And when you learn about AIM, you don't, do everything at once. Just as we scaffold for the students, we scaffold for the teacher as well. So you just take it day by day by day. And with the practice you get, you will build and build and build. But I wanted to give you the full overview so you can see the potential and what can be done after 2 to 3 years. But you get a lot done even within the first week or month with AIM. Even just starting, you'll see a huge improvement. I can pretty much guarantee that. If you do AIM well, I can.
Thank you. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you so much. All right. So if anyone has any questions at any time, my email is wendy@aimlanguagelearning.com. Hi, Danielle.
Hi, how are you?
Fine,
Can you hear
thanks.
me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Yes, thank you. That was really informative. I'm kind of wondering, so right now I am doing I was in a position and I decided it wasn't the right position for me. And so now I'm doing subbing or TRT work here in Adelaide. And so I don't know, everybody that's hiring me as a substitute wants a French teacher. So, but I'm just jumping obviously from school to school, which makes it a bit tricky. But I still see what the benefit would be. But I thought, what is the easiest way to start? I have 2 young girls here who aren't necessarily learning the best French from me, just in our environment. And so I thought, if I started, I could at least practice with them.
Absolutely.
But what's the where do you? I guess what is the I don't have all the money in the world to invest in like the whole deal that you would necessarily if you're with a school. So I'm just wondering what that would look like, I guess.
Yeah, well, the most affordable way to start so we have our AIM kits. You really do need a kit because it has all of the activities that you will, engage in with the students who are with you, whether it's 2 kids or 10 kids or 20 kids or however many. You need those different activities, then the lessons so it scaffolds for you how to take the students through the learning of the different gestures, and it comes with the portal with all of the songs, raps, dances, the play, the e-reader of the story, and all. Then the partner group activities book comes with all the activities that you're going to model from the teacher's guide in those 85 lesson plans. So it's kind of essential to have that. Now there are different formats to purchase that in. You can buy it with a full, premium model with a assessment book and with the CFR activities, but those aren't necessary. You can just buy the basic kit, and you can buy the basic kit even more inexpensively by buying the teacher's guide as a digital version, not something you have to pay to ship. And so there are various different options to start, and then yeah, you can get a cheaper version of or I should say less expensive version of the training by just buying the videos, the asynchronous training videos, so you don't have to, you don't come to the actual workshop. You can have them for 6 months and review. So
Right.
yeah, that's basically what we have.
Yeah, so just getting that first kit is your kind of step one, and then working that out. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was wondering.
Yeah.
And then I also have been teaching older kids. That's the other thing is, I mean, the training I would do myself, I feel like I would do with my kids, but for the most part, I've been teaching year 4 to year 12, but mostly I'm doing 7 and up. I'm doing kind of middle years and senior. So I'm just wondering.
Yeah,
so same thing. You're still doing the
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as I'm not sure if you were there when I was mentioning in the Netherlands, they use AIM widely, and it's all high school.
Right.
And it's rated the best methodology there, program there, across the board for all development of all language skills. So it's used anywhere from age 4 right through to adult, really. But there are different kits for every grade. However, at your grade ages, if it's 7 to 12, well, you can use the same kit for all grades. All ages.
Right.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Yeah, that's so if I buy that beginner kit, that's fine. I could use it
fine
if
for
I get hired
everybody.
in a school. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
fine.
Interesting. Yeah, the school that my daughters go to is actually a French immersion school here in Adelaide, and there are some reception teachers, some kindergarten teachers who are using the AIM program. Some aren't. So I don't know how that's like going to follow through in the older years, but it was kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
But, okay.
Okay, well, thank you, Danielle. If you have any other questions, just don't hesitate to contact me.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. And Priscilla, you were wondering if there's any language assessment book for Mandarin. You've been creating formative assessment of the story of Three Little Pigs. Okay, so I don't think there's a separate language assessment. No, there isn't a separate language assessment activities book as there is for French. However, before I created that for French, I would typically use the parts of what I was using in class under the in the book that's called the partner group activities book. I would keep some of those activities aside, or half of the activity aside, to use as assessments for the students. And so and it was nice because I was testing them on something that was familiar, and so I was really supporting them that way. So that's basically what I would use. And before I developed the language assessment activities package, I would just use part of every different partner group activities activity in that book for my assessments. So yeah, and my best assessment, to let you know what it is really having students do a story retelling orally on video, filming themselves at home with their iPhone that pretty much every child has now, or at least has access to through the parents, from grade 2 and up. Even I haven't seen any grade 1s yet, but I can imagine there are some. But certainly I have examples. I have samples that I'll show at my workshop from grade 2, student sitting on her bed, just filming herself. It takes about 10 minutes, and she does an oral story retelling the whole story in her own words orally without repeating any sentence from the original story. It's beautiful to see. She uses circumlocution, she uses sustained speech. It's just fantastic. So that is the best assessment or you can see so much in that. You can see the richness of language use, the correct or not syntax, the ability to sequence, so much more than just the language alone, their use of grammar. And then in addition to that, the other way that I assess the students is through their story retelling that's written and story extension that's written. And so that should be, 6, 7, 10, 12 pages long. And you can see so much in that writing. There's just so much that you can see there in terms of their written language skills. So in my opinion, extra tests are not necessary at all. If you do aim well and you get the students to the story retellings and extensions orally and in writing, you're going to get the best product for assessment at the end of your kit. And it's great to put those products into their student portfolio and take them from year to year to year so they can see the development over the years. So hopefully that helps, Priscilla. All right, well, I guess my goodness, this has been a long webinar. I hope you guys have learned a bit more about AIM. Yeah, I hope to see you at a workshop sometime soon. I would love to be able to explain a lot more, and really, our workshops are very hands-on. So you are going to leave those workshops knowing those gestures, knowing how to use them, knowing at level 1 workshop, the basic techniques and strategies, coming to know a story very well and how to use it well with your students. It's not like this webinar where I just talk and talk and talk. There's a lot of practice. So you'll leave it really knowing how to implement AIM and step into the classroom and use it. So merci, thank you everyone, and hopefully see you soon. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Au revoir. Bye-bye.